If you could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, and then if you wouldn't mind, remain standing after the pledge for a moment of silence to remember those who gave the ultimate sacrifice during this memorial time.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Bear with us, we're experiencing some technical difficulties. As you guys have noticed, we have some new additions in the room.
That's great.
Don't worry about it, Joe. We'll move on there. Good. All right. So prior to tonight's meeting, we had executive session to discuss legal issues such as Garland, Link, and Ascion, and we also discussed some personnel issues. Okay, so consent agenda. Can I get a motion to approve consent agenda A through C?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, at this point, we're going to go and rearrange the agenda, folks. We have a presentation from Shelburne Ambulance. If the folks wouldn't mind coming forward, we're going to have you guys present first right at 7 o'clock. So Ryan?
You want to go through this stuff first or no?
I thought we did that first, right? Pretty soon this will be smooth as silk. Yeah, that's what's on the screen. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Supervisors of Hilltown Township, just like to take 10 minutes of your time, give you a little presentation about the past, present, and future of Shelburne Regional EMS. So our history, we started as a fire department over 70 years ago. They saw the need for EMS in the area. They started an ambulance, BLS at that time, and started serving Chalfont Borough, New Britain Township, New Britain Borough. This continued up until about January 2007, where the ambulance and the fire company decided to split. In 2008, we built our own building. It's on 207 Park Ave in New Britain Township. Currently, we have one ALS 24-hour truck out of the main station, and we also have a power truck that is an ALS truck. We were asked to do 4 to 5 days a week from a couple of the boroughs around you, and we figured out what the busiest times, busiest days were, and we placed that truck up there now. That truck is currently located at Sellersville Borough Building, and it helps supplements the needs for the EMS calls in the area. Our current staffing, which I'll get to this, is 5 paramedics, 5 full-time paramedics, 1 full-time EMT, 15 PRN paramedics, and 15 PRN EMTs. Now, when I gave you this presentation over 2 weeks ago, these were the current numbers. This since has changed. We are now up to 7 full-time paramedics, 5 full-time EMTs, and our part-times have stayed pretty much the same. So we have almost doubled our staff, and I'll get to the reason why. Chalfont is a 24-hour truck, or 24/7, 365 ALS service. We provide this to communities. We have no paramedic chase trucks, no intermediate trucks, and no BLS trucks. We provide 100% ALS service to all the areas for the last 5 years. We've not missed 1 hour of one day. And this is due to the commitment of our employees. Our employees are really dedicated to the community. We do not do interfacility transports, and we never will. We are 911 response only. and we provide the highest level of care that Pennsylvania allows. When it comes to BLS trucks, we're talking simple first aid stuff, pretty much what any first responder can do. When you get to an intermediate, they're allowed to do a little bit more, some airway stuff, but it's all non-invasive. They're not allowed to carry as many drugs as the paramedics. They're not allowed to do as many interventions to the community as a paramedic. Again, we do 100% ALS, highest level of care. We can stop, start your heart. We can provide pain meds. We can do everything. Currently, Chalfont serves Chalfont Borough, Doylestown Township, Hilltown Township, New Britain Township, New Britain Borough, and a small sliver of Warrington Township. As of June 1st, we will be serving Silverdale Borough and Sellersville Borough. We will be placing a truck at Silverdale Firehouse on June 1st at 6 a.m. and that truck will be up ALS 100% for the remainder of its time. Last year, we did around just over 2,000 calls. There was about 1,100 calls in your area. 458 of them Chalfont covered. Grandview responded to about 311. VMSC did about 232. Plumstead did 105, and then other municipalities or other ambulances around the area were about 77. This is our current fleet. As you can see, we all have pretty much brand new vehicles. The oldest one being a 2018 will be scheduled to be replaced hopefully this August. The truck is on order. We're just waiting to get its arrival. As for training, all our staff is PA, DOH required certifications. They're all required to do continuing Con Ed every year, anywhere from 24 plus hours a year. They all have a medical command review with our medical command doc, where she makes sure they're proficient in their skills. We are part of the Rescue Task Force / active shooter for Bucks County. We are one of about 5 or 6 squads in the county that can get called pretty much anywhere in the county if there's a mass incident. Members of the strike team, and we also are part of the Leave Behind Naloxone program. Current boroughs and township contributions, when Chalfont was split from the fire company, all the boroughs and townships agreed basically to do a 0.5 mil tax. As you can see, most of them do them. Hilltown does a LST tax for us, and New Britain Township also provides some insurance. They allow us to use their fuel pumps, and they also provide a little bit of the fleet maintenance for us to relieve some of that pressure off of us. As for the location, I got to before, we're at Silverdale Fire Department as of June 1st. This will allow us to hit a lot of the northern corridor of Hilltown. We would look to rearrange some of the box carts with the county and make sure that the closest ambulance, whether it be Chalfont or anybody, is closer to Hilltown so that all the residents are getting the fastest response. As you can see from that from the firehouse, even to the two northern farthest corners, we have about an 8-minute ETA, which is well under what the state requires. Estimated cost of a new station, just to give you a little bit of layout, will cost us about $800,000 to run this station. This will be offset by billing and subscriptions, and hopefully a little bit of township support. Our future endeavors, again, we have secured the Sellersville and Silverdale Borough contracts. We're looking for a contract with Hilltown. We are turning the power truck currently into the 24-hour, 7-day-a-week, 365-day ALS truck. The squad at Silverdale Fire Company is currently being moved up there as we speak. We would like to create a system-wide management plan where if Chalfont goes out, or Chalfont from the south station goes out, the north station would move to Station 61, try to cover the area as best as possible, and vice versa. If the north station goes out, the south station would move to Station 61, providing the best coverage for Hilltown, and also the northern parts of Chalfont and the southern parts of Sellersville. We like to create some mutual aid agreements with the surrounding ambulance squads, which we are currently working on. St. Luke's has already agreed to add us onto their box cards, and we did vice versa already for them. We would probably give it a couple months evaluation. If we see a lot of call volume start to spike, we'd reevaluate putting the power truck back into play during peak times and peak days. You guys will be receiving a local organization that provides the highest level of care of 911 service in Pennsylvania. We guarantee you that the truck will be ALS 24/7, 365. You have one ambulance company that will cover the entire township. Again, we like to be the primary, but we would also like to see closest ambulance in some of the outer spots. You can also hold us accountable. Our other townships and boroughs do. We answer to them, and we do our best to provide coverage for them. You would also receive a seat on Chalfont Regional's board. All our other boroughs have a seat that is selected for them. That gives you guys insight into our daily operations, our daily finances, and a vote for what is best for your township. There would also be some cost splitting. Ambulances are expensive, as you can see, and as many boroughs and townships we can get together with still providing the best care, we try to keep that cost down. Do you have any questions?
So if you're wondering why, if you're out in the audience and you're wondering why we're hearing from ambulance companies, I'll have a little follow-up afterwards to explain it, because you're probably wondering what's going on. Ryan, you had mentioned box carts.
Yes.
Can you kind of explain what that means?
So back in the day, when there was a bunch of fire companies, the townships and boroughs were split into what's called box cards, and it's just a geographical smaller area in your township. And then that box card, they used to take 5 points in that box card, and they used to see who is the closest to that box card, and then you would get a box card list. So if it was, we'll say down there on 152 and Hilltown Pike, that box card may be engulf that Aslan development and the church, and it would say Chalfont, and then it would go from there to the next closest, which would probably be Grandview at that point, possibly Central Bucks, and then VMSC, and then there would be a list of about 10 to 20 different ambulances all the way down the list. You have probably close to 40 or 50 box cards in Hilltown Township at this point.
And you talk about support from municipalities. What happens if you show up at a house and the person refuses service? How do you get paid for that?
We don't.
Completely on you guys, huh?
Completely on us.
Okay. Joe, any questions?
I have. Go ahead, Joe. No, go ahead, Joe. No, go ahead.
So I guess just to Caleb's point there, typically the best way to think about the cost to the township is the cost of readiness. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. Our guys are trained that doesn't matter if it's 2 o'clock in the morning, doesn't matter if they ran 4 calls before that, they're expected and will respond with the highest level of care.
Right. And in terms of how you actually staff the location or station, can you just talk a little bit about shifts and requirements that you need in order for the teams to be stationed within the township?
So currently we station our main truck with one paramedic and one EMT. Again, we don't do BLS, we don't do intermediates, and we don't do chase trucks. Our main truck is the highest, and we want that out the door first. We want that to be at your residence first. It's your best chance of surviving.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
You mentioned you're going to have a truck over at Silverdale beginning June 1st, I believe.
You are correct.
That is strictly advanced life support, right? That's all you're going to run 24/7, 7 days, 365. That's it.
You are correct.
Okay. No
BLS.
Okay. No
chase.
transports. None of that. Okay.
Not going to go on transports. It's
Okay.
not going to go. It's not taking people down to Philly. It's not taking people home. It's not taking people to nursing homes.
Okay.
We are strictly borough and township based, 911 system. We don't get called out. We're not going to take your truck and go do something else with it. We don't support ourselves by doing transports. We support ourselves by 911 only.
Okay. Thank you.
Very briefly, do you mind describing the difference between ALS trucks and BLS trucks? One's advanced, one's basic. What does that mean?
Yeah, so basic truck is your first responders. They can do bandaging. They can apply AED just like anybody else in this room. If you guys have an AED out in the hallway, it will instruct you on how to apply it and possibly save somebody's life. They can administer. There's about 5 or 6 meds there's no real side effects to them if they give them wrong. They go through about a year of training, and those are, for us, they are part of the crew, but we keep a paramedic on the truck, which goes through anywhere between a year and a half of training. There's ride times and hospital times that they have to do. They can administer multiple different drugs. They can administer any drugs that Pennsylvania allows us to administer. They go through yearly reviews with the command doc to make sure their skills are proficient. They can place permanent airways in you, whether it be placing a tube down your throat or actually doing a cricothyroid where they cut your throat. Any type of call that is presented, they are trained to handle.
Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate
Thanks, Ryan.
that. Yeah, we'll take that back up here. I appreciate your time. Let's do these guys, I'm sure.
Thank you.
Do you want to do your treasurer's report? Okay, moving on, we're going to go to our treasurer's report, the financial report as of 30 of April.
So this will be fairly quick. Obviously, we're almost wrapping up May here, so we'll be doing that in the coming weeks here. But I think overall, we're looking very good for the year. More or less break even year to date, and in line with our budget for the most part. Revenue has come in a little bit higher than what the budget would be year to date. I think a few things just to note, top right corner of the slide, this is as of today. We have 16.3 million that we moved to Pliget. That's a yield of 5.12% right now. So that's about 800,000 annualized. We'll see what happens with interest rates, but that's one of the changes that we've made thus far this year. Another item, bottom right corner, ARPA funds. So those are COVID relief funds. That's what we have left as of the end of April. That's paid for basically these screens in here and a few other projects. We'll be going through an exercise at some point in the coming months to designate the remainder of those funds. They need to be designated by the end of this year, or they need to get returned. So yeah, I think that's it. Any questions?
Thank you, Joe. Okay, confirmed appointments, none. Legal, solicitors report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have two ordinances and a resolution for consideration this evening. The first ordinance, it would be an ordinance creating an advisory Parks and Recreation Board. The purpose of the ordinance would be or the purpose of the board, I should say, would be to evaluate the development, adequacy, oversight, maintenance, and regulation of Hilltown Township park recreation areas and park facilities. The ordinance was advertised in Legal Intelligencer on May 14th. The number, it would be a 5-member board who would report to the Board of Supervisors on a regular basis, including submitting an annual written report, and would have public meetings advertised, open to the public for comments and other considerations. So we had looked at this briefly, or authorized advertisement at the last meeting. So if the board's prepared to move forward with the creation of the Park and Recs Board, you would need a motion and a second.
Can I get a motion to approve ordinance 2024-001 to create an advisory Parks and Rec Board?
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. Any discussion?
No, I think
None?
this is going to be awesome. Thank you
Yeah.
for doing this, Kelly.
It's going to be great. All those in favor?
Aye.
Back to you, Jack.
The second ordinance involves adjusting the speed limit on Moyer Road. There was this, again, authorized for advertising at the last meeting, advertised in Legal Intelligencer on May 15th. This ordinance would establish a maximum speed limit on Moyer Road between the area of 113 to South Percy Road. Obviously, this was subject to a speed study conducted by the police department. And so if the board is prepared, we would need a motion and a second to approve that ordinance, adjusting the speed limit on Moyer Road between those 2 points to 35 miles per hour.
Okay. Could we get a motion to approve ordinance 2024-002 to establish a maximum speed limit of 35 miles per hour on Moyer Road?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second?
A second?
Any discussion?
Nope.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Lastly, the resolution that I spoke of. This is a resolution in your packet from Penridge Wastewater Treatment Authority. I know the board's aware, but for the purposes of the public, public sewer in Hilltown and various surrounding communities is handled in 2 ways, either by municipal-owned plants or there's a regional sewer authority, that is PWTA, Penridge Wastewater Treatment Authority. When authorities are established under the Municipal Authorities Act, they can be established for up to 50 years at a time. And when that 50-year period approaches, they have to renew their charter. So this is a resolution from PWTA drafted by PWTA's council. It's it really is a fill-in-the-blank sort of resolution number, name of the municipality, and that is because Hilltown is one of 6 municipalities who will be hopefully signing an identical resolution to extend the charter at PWTA for another 50 years. So, with that said, I mean, all the resolution really does is exactly that. It adopts articles of amendment to be filed with the state. Then there's a provision regarding severability, failure to enforce, and an effective date, and that's about it. So, if the board is prepared, I need a motion and a second on the resolution, and then we can have this executed and sent over to PWTA to put in their filing packet.
Okay, can I get a motion to approve draft resolution 2024-013, which is the adoption of articles of amendment to increase the term of existence of the Penridge Wastewater Treatment Authority for 50 years?
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
And that's all I have on the solicitor's report.
Thank you, sir. Planning, Mr. Fulmer.
Okay, first item under planning is the Lion Real Estate Holdings, otherwise known as Tegon Golf Carts Land Development Waiver. This is a application that was before our Planning Commission last week on the 20th, at which time the Planning Commission did pass a motion recommending that the township waive land development submission requirements for this project. This is typically something that gets requested when there's an already developed site and somebody just wants to simply add a building or a smaller development on the site. I'm not going to steal Mr. Wild's thunder too much here, but there is a review letter in your packet from May 3rd from my office that enumerates about 7 or 8 comments, and again, not to speak for the client, the applicant here, but I believe those things were characterized as will comply at the Planning Commission meeting. So, Mr. Weil, if you want to fill in any blanks I left open for you.
Thank you, Mr. Fulmer. Good evening, everybody. As you heard, Ed Wild for the applicant. Tygon Golf is the operator of the property. The owner is Lion Real Estate Holdings. And I'm pleased to have with me Jared Stokes to my left, who is effectively the owner and the operator. And as you heard, we come before you on what's a pretty simple application. It's such a pleasure to see, the plan up on the screen. I apologize that I don't have our engineer here tonight. Jason Smealand is the project engineer from Lenape Valley Engineering. Jason had a family obligation to attend to, so I'm stuck handling Jason's duties as well. But the project's pretty simple. The property, as you probably know, is along Bethlehem Pike or 309. That's shown on the plan here. It's up near the intersection of the traffic light at Unionville Pike. You can see how oddly shaped it is. Back in the late 1960s, the county condemned it. It had been like a 10-acre parcel, and the back portion back here became much of like a stormwater retention area. And it left the property in a sort of very odd configuration, as you can see. For many years when I was a kid, it was a farmer's market. It had a whole hybrid of different uses. If you used to drive by, and for all the people that probably in Hilltown is longer or longer than I am, all the statuary and all the landscape equipment and things that were out along the road. So when Tygon Golf got it, what they do is sell and service golf carts. And they do that both here and in the area, but also online and in the Poconos and in the Jersey Shore and that sort of thing. And you can see the main building is here in the middle. You can actually see in the 2008 photo, there was another building right there that's been removed since sometime after 2008. But what's left is the repair shop area over here. And the application is as simple as seeking to add a small addition as a future repair building. It meets all the area dimensional bulk requirements in the PC1 district. The little boxes that you see everywhere are one of the only issues in Tim's letter, that parking, if you calculated it as the E7 repair shop, would need 50 spaces. And it doesn't have 50 spaces dedicated as parking spaces today. So some of them would be held in reserve and built if ever necessary. But if you've driven by, the property's been cleaned up quite a bit. There's a display area of the golf carts along Bethlehem Pike. And Tim looked at it as a waiver of land development, which really is nothing more than we're respectfully asking that you treat this through a permit process over the counter without going through land development. There really aren't any traditional or conventional or unusual land development issues triggered by a small addition that if it was your house or a farm structure or whatever, you'd get a permit over the counter. So that's why we're here. Tim's letter, as he indicated, called out some items. I'm happy to go through them, but I'm also happy to say I think they're all will complies. And if it's easier and less controversial, I see you've got a lot of things on your agenda to just say compliance with Tim's letter is a will comply. That's fine with us. There's really nothing of any consequence other than the reserved parking, which I already called out.
Thank you. So can I get a motion for approval of the land development waiver with a will comply to conditions in the correspondence dated May 3rd?
Can I just ask a question real quick?
Go for it.
One thing, and we'll be talking about the 309 connector project in a bit. Within the existing design, it looks like there could be some right-of-way acquisitions or at this intersection here. Have you guys factored that into the plan thus far, or do you still need to do that?
I don't know that we have. I think we'll deal with that if and when we get to that. I don't think it would change the fundamental request that we put a small addition in the back. If we had to figure that out, and Jared can tell you, but on a given day, he might have one or two, and on a good day, three customers that come to the site.
Right.
A lot of the site is online sales. I think Jared would be thrilled if he had 10 customers all at the same time, but that's not the model for the business.
Right.
And so if it turns out that there's some right-of-way issues, we'll certainly deal with those. We do realize the property is sort of oddly configured, and it's been kind of a strange transition. I remember it, as I said, from a kid, and I drive by now. It looks so much better, and what they've done really is a sort of tribute to the property, I think. And with that spirit, they would address your question or any comments like that.
Okay, great.
Anything else?
Not for me.
Okay, good.
You're good?
Okay,
Yeah, I'll make that motion.
is there a second?
I will second it.
Any additional comments?
Not
or
for me.
discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Zach.
Thank you.
Okay, then moving ahead to the next item under planning, which is the Shriner Tract subdivision sketch plan. This is a application that came in as a sketch plan. There's no formal action required by the board tonight. This is merely for informational purposes. This is a plan that was submitted several months ago. It was at the Planning Commission meeting back in April. And it's for a proposed residential development in the CR1 zoning district along the east side of East Walnut Street. This is sort of between two fairly recent developments, being the Country Road subdivision and the Orchard Hill subdivision. And again, it's a sketch plan, no actions required. I think the applicant chose to request to be here tonight just to get some feedback and to present their project. So I'll turn it over to you.
Great, yes. Good evening. My name is Erica Miller. I'm with the firm Obermeyer here on behalf of Heritage Properties. With me, I have Mark Shagney. I had to phonetically spell that one out. And like was mentioned, we're just here to introduce the project to you guys and get the board's feedback. We do this so that we can talk with you guys beforehand, before going into the, as you know, very costly process of land development and all the tests and everything that goes into that. And like was also mentioned, we met with the Planning Commission, who, you know, were generally supportive, and we've gotten some review letters that I'll get into in a bit. But just as an overview of the project generally, it is a completely by right plan in that we do not need to seek any zoning of relief whatsoever. And the property is currently, there's a single family dwelling, but it's largely undeveloped and wooded with just like scattered trees and brush. The property, as you can see, is a flag lot in that it has an appendage there on the left of the plan going out to Walnut Street, hence the address on the frontage on Walnut Street, which is about 15 feet. Overall, it's going to be a 24-unit townhouse development with that new road extending Country Road to Applewood, excuse me. And that is in line with the master plan, which has had Country Road extending. Each unit will have its own lot. The smallest of them is 3,480 square feet. Each one will have 3 bedrooms and 4 parking spaces, which is 2 in the garage and 2 in the driveway, and a small deck off the back of each unit that's on the first floor only. The road that we plan to extend will we're thinking a 56-foot right-of-way and a 32-foot cartway with sidewalks on both sides. In addition to the 4 parking spaces for each unit, we're planning about 24 additional spaces on one side of the street for, guests. Regarding stormwater management and facilities, it will be provided on site, as you can see near the top of the plan. And this will be a great improvement because the property is largely undeveloped and has just wooded areas and brush. So this will actually be a great improvement to the stormwater management in that area. Regarding buffering and utilities, we are complying with all setback requirements, including the setback requirements from a small channel that's on the south of the property, but on the plan it's on the left side. And that will largely remain undisturbed. We will also be complying with all open space requirements, and landscaping will be provided throughout the whole development. The plan is public water and sewer. I know Mr. Groff is on the authority, water and sewer authority, so maybe you can speak to that a little bit more. But from our preliminary review conversations, it's our understanding that there is capacity for this development. And then regarding the review letters, we will likely need 2 waivers. One is the width to depth ratio, and in Mr. Fulmer's letter, that would be number 4, which was, as he stated, what he would be in support of. And this is very common for townhomes because of the nature of the shared wall and the smaller lot size. And the second one would be the Walnut Street improvement requirement, which is number 6 in Mr. Fulmer's letter. And this is because, like I mentioned earlier, there is just that small appendage area that has 15 feet of frontage on Walnut Street, because the property is largely, would have been landlocked, I guess. Well, the whole thing's landlocked, but no other streets without the ones that we're creating. So we would be seeking a waiver from that one. But that's really all I have. And then I have, like I mentioned, Mark here with me to answer any of your questions. It's a very high level review. Unfortunately, like the last project that just went, we don't have our engineer here tonight either. But we can answer the best we can. I think we'll be able to suffice. So thank you.
Thank you. Any questions, John?
Yeah, just a quick question. You mentioned there would be overflow parking potentially. Where? I don't see that on the map.
So it's largely, we are anticipating, I don't know if you can see it, on the very top you can see on Country Road how people now park on the right side of the street. We are anticipating on the outside of where most of the homes are and where the driveways are, we'll allow for one side of the road parking. Okay. For additional spaces.
Sorry, I thought you meant a separate parking lot.
Yeah, and we do meet the parking requirement for each unit with those 4 on-lot spaces.
Got it.
I see that under the parking calculations. You say you said here additional on-street parking will be available on one side of the proposed street. That's what you're speaking of?
Yes.
Okay. And you said this is a by right plan, correct? You're not looking for...
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a by right use, and we're going to meet all the dimensional requirements as well.
That's all I have. Yeah.
Speaking of the parking issue briefly, one of the questions that came up at the Planning Commission, and if you can answer it tonight, I think you might have answered at the Planning Commission, but just to reiterate, so 2 of the spaces are being planned to be met by the garage area. Right. One of the things that potentially can happen if there's no regulation in place is that people can convert their garages into living space, thereby losing 2 spaces, and the Planning Commission, based on my recommendation, felt it would be wise to impose some kind of a deed restriction against the conversion of the garages into anything but storage for automobiles and other things. Is that something you would have an issue with?
if that would be a requirement.
We agree with Mr. Fulmer's recommendation, and I think there was two parts. One was the conversion of the garage, and the other was the setback. The driveway is 25 feet, which is, I believe, 5 feet longer than is required for the setback, so that a car can fit onto the driveway and not be hanging
Out.
the sidewalk. So, yes, we would be amenable to those two features so that always be
And I will mention too that I think most of, besides the waivers that I mentioned before, this is mostly will comply, plus the testings and things that we have to do once we go through land development. But regarding Mr. Fulmer's letter, I think it generally will comply with, I think, a few other suggestions as well.
Do you mind?
I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead.
Though that'll get hammered out when you put your preliminary plan in.
Exactly.
Yep. Would you object to opening it up to public comment if there's anybody in the audience that has a question for you?
No problem at all.
Anybody there interested in asking a question about this project? All right, looks like you're off the hook. Dodge the bullet. All right. Okay. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you guys.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it.
Have a good evening.
Back to you, Tim.
Back to me. All right, so we're up to item 7A, which is the Mill Ridge subdivision maintenance period completion. Just for everyone's information, Mill Ridge subdivision is actually a project that was predominantly in New Britain Township, although there is the road extends into Hilltown for a short distance, and there are 4 homes in Hilltown. This project was completed several years ago by the developer. It was accepted as complete. They went through the 18-month maintenance period, at which time there was a reinspection of all the public improvements, and all the improvements were found to be in satisfactory condition, such that I am recommending that the township accept completion of the 18-month maintenance period and return all financial security held to the applicant, less payment of all engineering, legal, and township administrative costs. And if you are in agreement with that, we will need a motion.
Okay, can I get a motion to accept completion of the 18-month maintenance period and return all due financial security held to the applicant?
Yep, so moved, less any payment of all engineering, legal, and township
That's what I
costs.
said do.
I'll second.
Is there a second?
Yep, I'll second.
Any discussion, guys? None?
No.
Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and then the other thing under engineering, 7B, is the 31 Church Road land development completion. This is a small land development project on Church Road. It's near the intersection with Bethlehem Pike. It's on the north side. It's a project whereby a property owner built a accessory building on their property for their business. Went through land development. Predominantly, all it was an access driveway improvement, some parking, and a stormwater management facility. All the work has now been completed such that you are able to accept completion of the project and authorize release of all financial security to the applicant, less payment of all engineering, legal, and township administrative costs. And to do so, you will need to do a motion.
Okay, can I have a motion to accept completion of the project and authorize release of all financial security to the applicant, less payment of the engineering, legal, and township administrative costs?
So moved.
Second. Second. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman.
Hey, thank you. Any discussion?
No.
All those in favor? Aye.
That's all I had.
Thank you, sir.
Dazzling display of engineering.
Okay. We're gonna shuffle the schedule around, the agenda around once more. We have VMSC, which is
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Shane Wheeler. I'm the chief at VMSC EMS. I want to take a few minutes just to thank you for the opportunity to present tonight, tell you a little bit about our service and what we would like to present Hilltown as an option for emergency medical service. First off, VMSE is an old system, about 91 years. Like most systems, started almost 100 years ago, exclusively volunteer for the first 70 years of its existence. And throughout time, as people's lives became busier, training standards became harder, volunteerism kind of fell off, like what we've seen in fire service across the nation as well. In 2022, I came on board as the first career chief of the organization, and charged to restructure the organization from its structure, bylaws, and everything, changing VMSE from essentially a member-driven board to a community board organization. When I started, we had about 26 full-time employees. Today, we have about 214. We're a robust system, a regional system. Currently service 11 municipalities, a military installation, and we have to kind of recap a couple things. I'll point out in your packet there is the first thing. Thank you. You'll see the Bucks County Department of Emergency Health Services 2020, the Emergency Medical Service Response Summary for the municipality of Hilltown. You'll notice there that I would just like to point out there is that 11-minute and 15-second average response time. That's just, very long. Nationally, we strive for an 8-minute and 59-second response time standard as an industry. So being 11 minutes and 15 seconds, it's way over where it should be there. In VMSE, we responded just over 200 responses last year there, and our average response time was 7 minutes and 43 seconds. So although we're not directly in the municipality, we do service the municipality through the box cards, as Mr. Brunk was explaining earlier, and how that works. On the second document in your packet there, you'll see is the breakdown on all the responses that we did. Now that is on the previous 365 days. We updated that this morning with the most current data that we have in regards to the responses that we have done as an organization at VMSE into Hilltown. So you don't have a dedicated ambulance inside the jurisdictional boundaries of Hilltown. Those services have been provided by other services outside the municipality. We've just talked about your response times. And oftentimes there are ambulances that are close to Hilltown when there is an emergency, but because of a county line, that ambulance may not be recognized. Routinely, we're moving about 4,000 ambulance patients a year to Grandview Health, right through 309, and those patients are going down 309 empty all the time. And if there's an emergency, oftentimes they won't know that there's an emergency, and subsequently won't be dispatched because of the lack of interoperability between the two counties. So our solution would be to dedicate a 24/7 advanced life support paramedic unit within Hilltown Township. Oop, we're moving. Nope. Okay. We're good. Thank you so much. This ambulance, as I said, would be located within the township. We have included a master service agreement, which is a final document. There's the last document on the right-hand side of the packet there that explains how we'd have achieved that. What we're basically proposing is a 1-year moratorium on the $42,000 set aside funding for emergency medical services that Hilltown currently does, and to reapply those $42,000 to enhance the QRS services being provided through the fire department. We would obviously assist in helping with those educational needs and selection of equipment and so forth to bring those up in the first year. The second year, we would ask for those $42,000 set aside to come back to VMSC. And over the course of the first 12 months, we could accurately assess what that perpetual funding dollar really comes to. We think, based on similarities with another township that we acquired, that you're probably looking at about $12, just under $13 a household, which would equate to somewhere around $75,000 as a perpetual annual contribution on year 3. So year 1 moratorium, reassign those funds to enhance the clinical capabilities of your QRS team, invest that in local CPR training, do things public oriented to try to enhance bystander CPR training and those kind of things. Year 2, transition that to full EMS funding if VMSC was awarded, and then we'll be working towards what that long-term perpetual funding model would look like. Ideally, we would request housing within the township to be provided by the township. It's an expensive endeavor, as it's already been pointed out. I won't spare you. Our costs are very similar to that of other EMS agencies to do that. What makes us a little different in this thing, we have our in-house communication system. We are a network. We currently have 15 ambulances on the board of various levels of certification. The vast majority of our ambulances are paramedic units. We have advanced practice paramedics that are either board certified community paramedics or board certified critical care or flight critical care paramedics that operate in a specialty vehicle. We're currently endeavoring and are very close to our blood program to be able to administer blood in the field. We have field ultrasound, a lot of clinical enhancements, and as well as technology that I'll kind of go into more detail into the presentation about how we are able to reduce our response times using call forecasting models and artificial intelligence to driver dispatch components. Very technical, but really fascinating. And we've been able to reduce about 1 minute and 35 seconds since implementation off of our response time system-wide by utilizing that. We have a robust clinical education department. We partner with JeffStat. We partner with Einstein Montgomery Disaster and Emergency Medicine. We have three medical directors, and the Einstein Medical School rotates their 4th-year resident physicians through our system. So we regularly have physicians on our ambulances, be it through our medical director or through residents doing their 3-week rotation. So it's not uncommon to see doctor on the back of some of our people when they show up on a scene. Strong community engagement. Last year, we provided EMS to over 300 events across the Delaware Valley region. And we don't charge our municipalities that support us anything to provide those services to ensure that you have a safe event. We actually participate in the planning of those events, making sure that they go off without a hitch. And we are a data-driven kind of system. We are deep in analytics. We monitor and measure everything that we do, from response time to driver performance to customer patient follow-up and surveys. So we're constantly looking for ways to improve the delivery of our service to all the municipalities and services that we provide. Currently on our 911 network, and I want to make a couple of distinctions about the different business lines that VMSC has, right? And so VMSC adopts a regional EMS approach that is a taxpayer deterrent model, meaning that we try to find alternative modes of business lines that we operate independent of our 911 operations to backfill and offset the cost. as many systems, I'm sure you've all read articles, all seen things, how systems are collapsing across our nation, and particularly here in the Commonwealth. We've tried to find models to keep us sustainable for the long game. So even if a municipality would leave, then we would still be in service. Or if we lost a particular line of business, we would still be, here for another 90 years. And we've been very successful in forging partnerships that are allowing us to backfill and run our 911 system, because every emergency, I don't want to say every, but most EMS systems are operating at a loss at providing emergency ambulance services. Our own gap right now between cost of delivery and reimbursement is about 13% gap in what it costs us to run the call and what we collect. It's a terrible model. There has been significant improvement with some changes to Medicaid and our ability to provide some services for treatment and no transport, but it's a long road to go, and we continue to try to have to march to the drum with the insurance carriers, which is, they have a much bigger lobbying presence than we do. But what Hilltown gets is you're buying into a network, an emergency EMS network. And we talk with all of the municipalities that we service. The brick and mortar mentality of EMS doesn't work. Me parking an ambulance and saying, all right, you go to that location and Main Street and whatever, and that's where you're going to stay. Well, that's great if you only have one municipality that you're servicing. But if you have multiple municipalities, you need a dynamic scheduling system. You need to be able to cut those distances in half. If everybody's available and everybody can sit on the station, great. But if Montgomery goes out, or Hatfield goes out, or Souderton goes out, or Franconia, that we want to bridge those gaps in response times. And the technologies we deploy would deploy all. When you buy into the VMSE network, you're not just getting one ambulance. Yes, you'll have an ambulance assigned to Hilltown, but you're going to have access to 7 other ambulances within 12 to or so less minutes away. Whenever there's a crisis or large emergency. Plus, we start splitting the distance, and I'll show you some call prediction things that we do that are pretty amazing. Alright. Now this is supposed to be moving, and for the sake of pushing the button again, it's not going to do it. Okay. What you have, let's get away from it. All right. What we have here, this is Marvelous, and it's Marvelous, MARVLIS, and this is a artificial intelligence call forecasting technology. It's accurate to about 86%. It will tell us pretty much where the next call is going to be. The darker the color, the higher level of predictability. It's constantly learning. It takes weather into effect. It takes community events. It takes traffic and historical call data, and it's about 86% accurate. And we deploy this regularly, and every day, every minute of our operation. It's constantly updating and telling us where we're at. This is a quick picture of one of our communicators in the communication center, and we're tracking what's happening in Bucks, in Montco, our own internal systems, and obviously utilizing the Marvelous system, which intakes those 911 calls through a email parser connected to the 911 systems. So as that call comes in, the 911 system may not realize that, hey, there's an ambulance driving up 309 that's going to be closer to that call, and they're going to dispatch a truck that's further away, where our dispatch is going to intercept that call and say, Medic 6, I need you to mark up and take that call because you're going to be 3 minutes or 4 minutes closer to that response. And we are constantly deploying the system throughout the day, moving our resources around to ensure that we can reduce those response time. Our goal is that right unit, right place, and right time model. Right now, our company-wide response time is 7 minutes and 32 seconds across all 70 square miles of our EMS system, our 911 system. I don't take into account our Philadelphia market or our Tobyhanna, Monroe County operation. They're completely independent. Clinical education, we partnered last year with Jefferson Health to deliver the first hybrid paramedic program. We did that in-house, and I'm proud to report that 10 students started the program that were all VMSC EMTs, and 10 people finished that program. And the first of those students are finishing up their clinical time and will begin testing next month. So we'll be adding 10 more paramedics to our already 40-ish staff of paramedics that we have currently. We have invested in immersive technology as far as training through simulations. We have a iSimulate ambulance that's built in, and this year alone we committed $170,000 to build our immersive EMS training lab. And the things that we're able to recreate in this immersive training is truly remarkable. Everything that is on our ambulance, including the power load systems and the stretchers of everything, is on this simulants, and we're able to recreate any kind of scenario you can think of and run our teams through that program. All of our training is supervisor and physician led. And which we have felt with our latest CARES data, our numbers of successful cardiac arrest survival rates. In this incident, we exceed the national average by twice what the national average is. So we're really proud of the fact that 41% of our cardiac arrest patients make it to the hospital with a pulse. So these are all attributed to our robust training, physician-led program, and just the constant interaction with physicians, both in the classroom and in the field. Our success, though, really comes down to our people. We are one of the only organized labor International Association of Firefighters workforce. We're really proud of that relationship. We're proud of the strong tradesman history and tradition with the union workforce, and together the administration team and the collective bargaining union has really put together what I feel is some of the best pay and benefits that are around. We have safety measures in place. Our teams are not allowed to work 24-hour shifts. They have an 18-hour consecutive work rule, and they are not allowed to break it. So no one wants a sleepy EMT showing up at their house at 2 o'clock in the morning, right? To drive someone in a rain and snow and, hopefully get them there. We pay thriving wage with our average 2023 earnings for EMTs at $60,505 and a benefits package that totals them out at $82,238 on average, and our paramedics an average salary of $77,021 with their benefits package at $102,851. With those wages and benefits, we pay thriving wages, which attributes to our less than 3% attrition rate. So we have some of the highest retention in the United States. We have a great work culture with our teams. And it all is more than just the benefits, and it's more than just the pay. It's about providing the structure internally to look after the total mind, body, and spirit of our EMTs and our paramedics with wellness programs. It's a tough job. It's a tough job, long hours, difficult situations. So we had to put in, a robust mental health team and an employee assistance program. All this is led by this purple-headed lady with the snake down here in the corner. That is Dr. Reverend Deborah Darlington. She leads our spiritual and wellness team, and she's just fantastic and a big part of our success at our organization. Community engagement, as I mentioned, actively involved in community events. We don't charge our municipalities for EMS coverage. Community CPR training, that's something we learned. And one of the areas we're not performing well as a EMS system and in our areas is bystander CPR. We're half the average in the United States of people that are performing CPR before we get there, not counting the fire departments or our law enforcement partners, just the community. People are apprehensive to help people, and that's really something we're wanting to take on strong in 2025 to really try to start initiatives to improve that bystander CPR with training. Free car seat installations. We have a series of people that you wouldn't think it took 40 hours to take a class to learn how to put a car seat in, but it's a 40-hour, really crazy class. But we do that as well. We are licensed as pediatric experts in emergency medical services by the Pennsylvania Department of Health, which is not an easy credential to have, but we have that and attribute that a lot to our relationship with Children's Hospital Philadelphia to help us with education, particularly surrounding pediatric emergencies that all of our teams benefit from. And on our sustainability model, as I mentioned, about right now, approximately just over 1% of our total funding comes from municipalities. Montco has not been as quick to embrace municipal funding as Bucks County has. They've been very good over here. And that's something that we began working with our municipalities about 2 years ago. And I'm happy to report that all of our municipalities in the North Penn are providing a municipal subsidy. And we have 2 we're working with that just came on with in the Indian Valley. We have all indications that they will begin to come up to that as well. Our model is, well, how can you do it for that? Well, we can do it for that because we're not just doing 911, because we can't just do 911, and that's just to be honest. If we want to have blood and we want to have thriving wages and we want to have technology to improve that, we have to find ways to take that burden off of our municipalities and the taxpayers. So these are why we run these programs like in Philadelphia and at Toby Hanna with the military. Each of those projects contribute approximately $3 million annually to our operation that all goes right back into our 911 operation and to our employees. As you can see, almost 80% of all of our revenue is our compensation packages for our teams. So we've been able to offer this year, thanks to the municipal subsidies that we've obtained in North Penn, we were able to fund a retirement program, 457, and a 401k program for our teams. Rounding out those benefits that we provide, including no out-of-pocket expenses for our insurance. We pay the entire funds, no deductibles. So we try to really go the extra mile to take care of our people. And that return on the investment is, 100% of the people we survey would recommend our service again to other people, 97% said that the ambulance crew was polite and respectful, because over my 35 years of doing this job, nobody has ever called me to say, man, your paramedic started a great IV on me, right? They never do that, but they have called to tell me they held my hand. They took care of me. So we put a lot of energy and effort in that follow-up care and closure with our customers and our patients to make sure that they get the very best compassionate care and clinical capability that is available. I'm happy to answer any question.
So on the funding side, how sustainable are those other funding streams? Meaning, what's the likelihood of those going away in the near term, or are you exploring other avenues as well? Or?
We're constantly looking to expand those markets and capabilities. We're looking for opportunities throughout the Delaware Valley region to find ways. Currently, most of our endeavors have a really good ROI percentage off, at least a minimum of 20%. Many of our ROIs are at 40% on some of those things. We are diverse from everything from event and site medicine. We provide EMS for some casinos. We provide EMS in industrial sites. We're looking at different alternatives to do that, as well as the specialty care transport stuff like we do with Children's Hospital. We do some stat emergencies emergency transfers in Center City with that emergency truck we have there. So I think there's some continuations of that, and there is some other things in the works, I should say. There's a there's a merger coming that's not going to affect this market, but it will affect more towards the Philadelphia market. That'll happen later this year. I'm not privy to release the particulars at this point. They'll be releasing that after July 1st. But we're pretty sustainable. Right now, we're operating at about a $15 million a year budget. We're running we're projecting about 18,000 ambulance calls this year. Running, like I said, 15 ambulances, another 8 support vehicles. We're taking on an educational institute as well in 2025, so we'll be expanding EMS training from the EMT basic level all the way up to the paramedic level. So we'll be doing that stuff inside. So we believe sustainability is based in making sure that we are making sound investments. We have a robust emergency fund through Haverford Trust. We try to make really smart decisions on how we balance and service things. We are a not-for-profit. We're very transparent. We have Mally do an independent audit of all of our books. We publish those annually to all of our partners. Monthly, our community partners get a report on what the responses were, et cetera, and we try to address the boards at least twice a year. And we're currently constructing a community service advisory board that will basically serve as a bench towards our full board of directors, but more importantly, will be made up of people in all of our communities that we can kind of share ideas with and get their input with, to kind of make sure that we're really staying connected with each of the municipalities and communities that we serve.
How you doing?
Good, sir.
Good. You mentioned, I believe, something about the 42,000, which we currently allocate to ambulances. You said the first year that your suggestion is that goes back to the local fire companies for their QRS.
Correct.
Can you walk me through that process?
Yeah, and I'm not fully familiar with what the capacities and capabilities of the I'm going to lose this yet. Of the QRS. But it's something we would want to work in. My background, before coming to what I like to think is the best job I've ever had. I was a fire chief. I ran an EMS system, started out with QRS, and so it's very near and dear to me. I feel like the investing in those programs are super important, right? I think that looking at their equipment, making sure it's interoperable with our equipment, will their pads, their defib pads interchange with ours? Do we need to get them AEDs that'll work? So it's a whole system evaluation that we would work with those administrators to, all right, how can we do it better? Are they familiar with our equipment? What equipment is there lacking? And $42,000 can go a long way to either hosting another EMT class or and buying those materials and looking to improve those services. Okay.
And then you also mentioned, I believe, something about housing.
Yes.
What would you be looking for exactly with respect to that?
Ideally, a climate-controlled bay to park our ambulance in. However, I will say that housing is certainly nice, but our model is a deployable model. There's oftentimes you'll see my truck sitting at the Wawa at 309 in Unionville. You'll see them kind of all over the place because of the call prediction thing that we have, and that we're just a dynamic system. We're a high-performance system. So could we do it without it? Yes. Would it be better if we had it? Yeah. So we'd work with the municipality to help us locate funding with a location within the community, maybe within the local fire companies. I don't know. But certainly work to try to do that. Not an immediate need. Certainly could deploy the unit without that, because we don't work 24-hour shifts. The crews they don't sleep on our stations. We have a no sleep policy, and they just kind of they're there to work and make sure that they're doing the things they're necessary to do.
I have. Thank you.
Are there any major differences between how Monco operates and Bucks?
Oh God. There are differences, right? Bucks has it together, right? I'm just going to be honest, right? They recognize the intermediate level certification, which, to me, you look at cities across our country like New Orleans, Their system is almost entirely intermediate. They can do everything that I can do on a cardiac arrest call, but often if you're in Bucks County, that ambulance will get dispatched on that cardiac arrest. But if you're in Montco, that ambulance isn't even recognized, right? So they'll bypass that ambulance to send, a guy with this disco patch on to go to that call as opposed to that intermediate. So Bucks has a really good approach to how they determine and utilize their systems. I feel like they're superior than Montco is on that. I think that both regions have a really good job with education and trying to deploy that. But fundamentally, there are some different. The task force model that the chief talked about with regards to the active shooter thing, I think Bucks is a lot more organized. Montco's really just trying to get their system off the ground. In many ways, I feel like Bucks is a little bit ahead of the game with regards to how their system's laid out.
Go ahead.
Your AI system, you said it's constantly evolving. Just scenario, if we would set something up and put you here and the AI said you should be somewhere else. Have you had a situation like that?
All the time.
Okay, what do you do in a situation like that? You just move it?
We move it
Okay.
because it's really proven itself, right? And generally the movements are slight. Like it's not saying, hey, you move 3 miles away, right? It's generally within a mile of adjustment, and but what we will do is once the system, if Hilltown came in, it's going to take us about 3 to 6 months for it to really learn Hilltown so it'll start out not very accurate because we only have 200 calls worth of data that we can dump into it. But as it learns, it'll become more and more accurate. So we'll lay out a strategy initially that we will ask the system to find the best location by response time to park where an ambulance should be. And then we can do that throughout the day because traffic is different. And then it'll give us some suggestions where that should be. Then, of course, if we're looking at a true posting model, then there's some things. We wouldn't want people posted in the middle of the night in some shady parking lot. So we're going to be looking for some place that has access to a bathroom, like a Wawa or whatever. But we've been able to, strike peculiar relationships. We're currently just finalizing a deal with Peter Becker, where we needed a place in that region, that area, and Peter Becker made a home for one of our crews. So has all the amenities and a bathroom, which is important. And so if they're between calls, we have those spots where we can kind of touch down in between calls to go from there. But yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
How would with Silverdale signing with Shalbrit, how would that work if you were to come into Hilltown, given they're right in the middle of the township, more or less? What are some of the factors that would come into play and challenges we have there?
Well, good for Hilltown because now they really got plenty of ambulances, right? That they can tie into. We would work with Shaw. We have a good relationship with Shalbrit. We routinely work with each other on scenes, and I have a lot of respect for the service that they deliver. They do a great job, so we would work out a plan to ensure that, most likely we're already backing each other up many times. So I think with our ambulance in that close proximity to theirs, obviously we would be backing each up a lot more and providing help with one another. So we would work together to ensure that, that we eliminated any kind of, miscommunications and so forth and how we would respond to calls. So a lot of communication would be involved.
And does that impact the call box system?
Yes. Yeah, we would evaluate if awarded. We would take a look at all those call boxes, work with the county, work with the just like the Chief Bunk said. We would have those same conversations with our other ambulance providers to ensure that there was adequate and appropriate responses built into those boxes too. And we would include obviously our Marvelous system to include, because there's a lot of right across the street, right, that aren't currently being recognized.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Anything else? All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
You want to do 309 or you want to do EMS? Okay. Ryan, is that clicker on that stand? Do you mind grabbing it? Thank you. You get to stretch this way. Thank you. Oh, yeah.
Are those your keys right there?
Yes.
Oh,
Okay.
As long as you know they're there. Lock you out.
All right, so earlier I kind of said, why are we here? I'll explain it to you. So here we go. I'll keep it short, sweet for you guys. But first of all, I have to say we are so fortunate in Hilltown to have so many great EMS services that service our township. We're serviced by 4 amazing companies, and I think we're very fortunate to be in that situation. Second of all, I'll let everybody know that no decision is going to be made tonight as far as what direction we're going to go. And further, we have invitations to Grandview and Plumsteadville if they want to come and present next month. So just so we're on the same page with decision times. So basically we're here because there's an issue that we found in our response time. As you heard tonight, we are average 11 plus minutes for an ambulance to get to your house. And I know if someone in your family is having a heart attack, that is forever. The county suggests that we work with something called the 90th percentile. And what that does is it removes response times under 1 minute, also over 30 minutes, and also removes duplicate responses. And if you look at the 90th percentile, we are more like 16 and a half minutes average time. So we are having an issue, and it has come to our attention that it needs to be resolved. I'm not looking to throw anybody under the bus, but we'll talk about what's going on in this system. But so right now we have, as you guys are well aware, Shelburne Regional Ambulance, we have Grandview Ambulance, we have Plumsteadville, and we have VMSC. As you also have heard, our township is divided into EMS call boxes. The county provides 30 companies for each call box, and basically the closer you are, the sooner you get the call. And if Jim or Joe, you want to jump in and comment, feel free at any time. So our requirement as Board of Supervisors is to really determine what services are needed in our township. We will also decide the financial decisions that go with these EMS services, and we have to consult with the EMS providers to determine the needs of the township, and this is according to the second-class township code. Let's get into the meat. Oops. I skipped one there. All right. We'll skip through all this stuff, but basically it has to do with the township gets to decide what company and contract, and we get to change our call box signs to make sure it makes sense for a township. Also, we will talk about funding. So currently this is our response area. This is our township, and you can see it's divided into 4 different colors. Each color represents a different ambulance. So you have Shelburne down the bottom in the red, which you saw earlier. We have Grandview up in the northern part, that's the green section. We have VMSC to the left, that's white. And then all the way down in the lower right corner, that is our Plumsteadville. So 4 different companies serve us, and you may ask, why is Shelburne cutting Plumsteadville in half? Why does Grandview come down on Kettle Hill Road? And it just has to do with all the boxcars, the way I understand it, and it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me as I look at it, but this is the current response area as we see it today. This is our heat map. So these are the calls in our township where the ambulances most respond. You can see that bright color right in the middle of the map. That is our township building. We do not have a lot of medical emergencies here. What that is we have blood draws 57 times a year. Last year, an ambulance came to draw blood on behalf of our police department. The other hotspots are up in the corner. There's a large population center up in Telford. And of course you have the 309 corridor. Everything else is pretty much dangerous intersections. And we actually even have a frequent user. They call 911 so much they made the map, which is impressive. So here you have the real reason why we're dealing with ambulances. If you look at the Grandview column, you have a number of calls and then the number of responses. So Grandview is called 460 times. That's the primary response, and they responded 269 times. That is a response rate of 58%. And that is one of the main reasons that we have an average time of 11 plus minutes, or if you're using the 90 percentile, of 16 plus minutes. If you look at the other companies, you have Shalbrit, that's actually responding more times than they're called, as well as VMSC, Plumsteadville, and then we have St. Luke's and others that will respond. If you're wondering why others might respond, it's kind of cool the way the ambulances work. If an ambulance from Skipback drops off a patient at Grandview Hospital, and then they report that they're in service, and then there's an emergency call right down the street, they can actually be called to it. So that's why you have 19 other calls, which I was not aware that actually happened. But in talking to one of our ambulance services, they said that they can actually find themselves going further and further and further away from home. If they're at St. Luke's, then a call comes in and they head north, and then another call. So it's kind of cool the way that works. So this is our response times, as we said. Grandview's average response time is 17.32, so 17 and a half minutes according to the 90 percentile. You're looking at Shalbert at 15, VMSC at 12, Plumsteadville at 18, and then others for an average of 16, and the average in Bucks County is actually just under 13 minutes. So we're not doing too well. And I don't mean to pick on the ambulance companies that are here, because they are covering other ambulances that are not able to respond. That is why the ambulance time is taking so long. And again, we're working on the 90th percentile, which I said eliminates anything under one call or 1 minute. And also if there's anything over 30 minutes, also if there's duplicates. So that's what the county suggests we use. So where do we go from here? We have been working with the Bucks County Department of Emergency Health Services, and they are amazing. I understand a lot of townships don't work with them, which is a shame, because they have data that you cannot imagine. They actually monitor the 911 calls. They log everything. They give averages. You can ask a specific question, they'll fire an answer back. They're amazing, and they've been a real blessing in this. We've also had meetings and site visits with VMSC, Shalbrit. We're going to go to Plumsteadville. We met with Grandview. So we're really getting out there, seeing the facilities, meeting the people that are running it, kind of getting a feel for each organization. Obviously tonight, public presentations by all service providers. We do not want to be in the position where we hire an ambulance company and we get asked, well, why did you hire that? This is all on the table for everybody to analyze, for everybody to review. We need to determine any necessary adjustments and implement them. So in closing, we really do have an issue with the state of EMS and funding. These guys are out there working every single day wondering how they're going to cover their bills. If you look at what's going on, a lot of municipalities are not really ponying up what they should. As we heard, insurance companies, I mean, we all know how those work, right? They really do not pay what they should be paying. There's staffing shortages and turnovers, which really has resulted in a lot of EMS failures and closures. If you look at this page right here, just in PA, 2013 we had 1,645. We're currently looking in 2021 at 1,259. So the trend is not looking pretty. So our job is to support our EMS, but also to watch out for our residents. We need to make sure that we have the best ambulance service possible for you guys. As we said, if someone's having a heart attack in your family, you do not want to wait 11 minutes. It'd be much better to wait 6. So that is why we are examining this. This is the issue on the table. If you're curious why everything is EMS at the next meeting as well, that's why. We have a big decision to make. I believe that is it. Kept it short and sweet, 10 minutes for you guys. Yeah. Yep. Well, we have the ambulance services here. Is there any questions from the public? Anybody? Okay. All right, we will move on then. Let me find my agenda in this huge pile of papers. I believe, Joe, we're going to move on to the 309 connector? Yes. Okay. And ambulance guys, thank you very much for coming. If you're going to be taken off, I understand. We appreciate everything you guys do. So the next item is the unfinished business, the 309 conductor update, and Joe's going to walk us through this. Again, bear with us, technical difficulties. That's the first time we're using these giant screens.
Tim, do you have any engineering trivia that we could do while we were No?
Put me on the spot.
No, no engineering
Do
trivia?
a card trick though.
Okay.
We're good. We're good. Sorry about that. All right. So obviously back on March 25th, we had a pretty eventful meeting here when PennDOT came in to present. We thought it would be good to go through a bit of what we've done since then and what we still have to do. First and foremost, we've taken everyone's concerns, including our own, all the residents that have attended, and we raised as well as we can what the main concern is with PennDOT. And really, if you look into Hilltown's comprehensive plan, certain roads are designated based on how we've designed our township overall. And really what we've noticed is that the design as it's currently presented would redirect traffic from expressways and arterial roads to minor collectors, which is Fair Hill, and local access roads, which is Keystone. Obviously doing that is going to have an impact on resident safety, everyone's well-being. We have a lot of concerns about our infrastructure holding up to the increased traffic. One thing just to call out, we've spoken with PennDOT and McCormick Taylor a bunch of times. They really have been very accessible, very responsive. They want to talk. They want to address everyone's concerns. So just wanted to mention that up front. They thus far have been very open to engaging with us. So just a brief timeline here. The 25th is when obviously PennDOT was in. Immediately we started connecting with residents. We've developed a pretty detailed concern log. I've been on site out at Indian Valley Camping Center. Their kind of concerns are connected, but maybe a little bit different. So we spent some time out there with them. It was important for us to engage locally, our own traffic engineer, and secondly, to start raising this up through state officials. So we've had meetings with Senator Coleman's office and multiple meetings with Representative Labs as well. This past month, we've kind of continued that same coordination with our local residents as well as state officials. The township has sent out Tim and our zoning officer out to Indian Valley Camping to try and help them along, given that they would potentially have a major business disruption and would have to redevelop from that. We also joined, there was an overall PennDOT project update call. Nothing too crazy coming out of that. Most importantly, we've gone through the detailed list of concerns with PennDOT directly. And essentially what has come out of that, and I'll go back to that last slide. We had a few takeaways for PennDOT. Specifically, we had questions about traffic studies in the event the design went through as is, but including mitigation efforts. So any of the data that we see out there right now that assesses the traffic does not contemplate mitigation efforts on Fair Hill. Secondly, Chief Engelhardt had raised concerns about some traffic studies or safety studies at intersections the farther we get away from Keystone, so Green and Diamond specifically. So PennDOT still needs to come back to us on those items. But if you look at the top open items there, we've been pushing quite a bit with PennDOT. We've raised it through state officials as well, making sure that everybody was getting support in terms of actually if they have a right of way or eminent domain offer, making sure that those offers are coming out and they're getting support. We're still looking into ways that we could potentially address in the near term concerns, speeding concerns specifically on Fair Hill. And then we ultimately need to finalize an ask of PennDOT. And so I think that's a pretty important, or probably the most important point. My perception is PennDOT has not said the ship has sailed, this is a done deal. They've actually said, we want you to come talk to us, let's get specific. And so that's what we're gonna do. So just jumping back real quick. So we're gonna continue with that resident engagement, follow up with PennDOT and lay out our specific asks, and then kind of holding us up, navigating through the state political process. Shelby Labs has been outstanding, and Senator Coleman's office has as well. They have a lot of experience.
Can you show a picture of what the road corridor is going to the pathway all the way through?
Yeah, I can pull that up. Okay, I'll get to that, and I can go back up to that in a second. So one thing that came up, and the formatting unfortunately gets kind of messed up using this program, but we had a follow-up question with PennDOT about how many eminent domain questions or requests are out there. There's been a lot of conflicting information, but ultimately within Hilltown Township, there are 26 total right-of-way acquisitions. 6 are still what I would kind of think of as in the, they need some work. 6 either have a pending offer or are pending evaluation. So outside of that, there has been apparently 2 completed transactions, which you can't really see, and 1 offer accepted. So 3 out of the 26 are in a pretty finalized state, and the remainder are just open offers. So this is directly from PennDOT, McCormick Taylor. So that was the more immediate update to address the question. This isn't going to be a great picture. Hopefully we got big enough screens, but that's on the left-hand side, the overall project that we're talking about. Yeah. We're on the right-hand side. So this is, yeah, it's basically County Line Road and Bethlehem Pike. Left-hand side is Hatfield and Franconia Township.
That's better than the PennDOT picture, thank you. That wasn't hard to beat.
So any questions or comments?
Quick question for you.
You mind just stepping up to the mic?
Oh, I'm sorry. Joe Roberto on Fair Hill Drive. So 26 homes, that's a little scary to me because we were told that PennDOT only needs to take like 2 houses on each side of 309 on Fair Hill Road. Where else are they looking at? Because across the street behind like Chop, that's Hatfield.
That's Hatfield.
I know we got to do some there. But
so part of it,
It's not all homes,
yeah, maybe terminology. I'll circle back. It might be portions.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. I don't think it's full properties. I think it's
Let's go.
some level of,
Packed tonight or something.
yeah.
Anyone else? Okay. Thank you. All right. Last order of business under new business is the H&K extension of hours. Looking for a motion to approve the concrete batch plant, asphalt batch plant, and crushing plant at Chalfont Quarry and asphalt to operate between the hours of 6:30 p.m. and 6:30 a.m. Monday through Saturday between June 1st and June 30th, 2024, excluding holidays and excluding, does it even say private anymore?
It does in the top paragraph.
Okay.
We're going to exclude that. They're asking for it.
Yep, excluding private jobs. Can I get a motion?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Supervisor comments.
I have one. Chris, I'd like to thank the police department. We had that water main break over there in Lawndale. You guys were on it and got us out there right away. I think they called us at about 10 after 8, and we were out on scene, and they helped us out talking to the residents and things like that, so thank you. We had the water up and going 2:30 that morning, so I appreciate your help with that. Thank you. That's all I have. No, that's it.
So just two things I wanted to mention. The first is, and we'll post this again on our website, but this Sunday, Hilltown Township Public Works has partnered, and they are involved in the Ryan Mannion Foundation, and there's going to be an event at Civic Park. I believe it's at 9 a.m., but basically it's we'll be planting trees and there'll be veterans there. So if you have a chance, feel free to sign up and come out. Secondly, one thing just wanted to mention that I wanted to look into. Given the state of volunteer fire and EMS, I'm hoping in the coming months to wrap up an evaluation and present an evaluation for implementing a tax credit within Hilltown Township for real estate taxes to active fire and EMS volunteers that are within the community. So that would involve partnering up with all the fire departments in our area and developing what that should look like, and hopefully, maybe have Jack work with them on what that package would be. But I think we'd have to pass an ordinance potentially. But if you guys are okay with me moving ahead with that, I'd like to start getting involved.
Yeah. Thank you. That day of service is 9 to 11, so you're correct. Public comment. Yes, sir.
Good evening. Chris Engelhardt, 808 Blooming Glen Road. I know the board's not necessarily prepared to make comment on the Garland zoning hearing board decision. I would again like to make a brief statement. The zoning hearing board should in part protect the residents of the township that failed. Why notify surrounding residents when you're not going to consider their concerns? What is their purpose if they do not consider the residents or even the opinion of the elected local officials? These are 3 separately deeded properties and should be treated as such. It has already been given one variance. If another is needed, it is a sign that the business is outgrown its current location and is a self-imposed hardship. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I know we've been in contact over Brian Richardson, Keystone Drive. I know we've been in contact in various different forums related to the 309 connector project, and I know I've said thank you every time. Just wanted to do it again one more time here. I know the engagement from all of you thus far has been great since that March 25th meeting I left here, and I think a lot of residents left here with a pit in their stomach, and the engagement and the progress since then has been great. So thank you for that, and we'll keep going. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Public comment? Okay, seeing none. Any press? Okay. Can I get a motion for adjournment at 8:44?
So moved.
Seconded?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all for coming
Thanks,
out tonight.
everyone.
We appreciate it.